for the No Nonsense Roundtable. Insights to capture your imagination from people you know and people you'd like to know about. Each week, a different guest from a different walk of life. Now, here is the host of the No Nonsense Roundtable, Dom Genova.
My next guest is a guy by the name of Gary Relf. Now, Gary and I have known each other for close to 50 years. He was a Chrysler employee as I was back in the day. And I just recently learned of his military experience, which is really quite extraordinary. He was in Germany during the Cold War, top secret clearance for all this communication and such. And then, he can tell you the story better than I can, but then he ends up in Vietnam after that. And he served our country well. He is very, very, very interesting, and I think you're going to enjoy this. And the rest of the story, as they say, will be on our YouTube channel. So here we go with Gary. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing now is we're having this conversation from week to week about veterans and veterans you may know and some that you may not know, but giving them a voice. And I think I'm going to call this the voice of a veteran because you are on, you're listening to the Voice of Liberty, WYSL, WLEA. And I happen to have on the phone with me right now a fellow that I've known for probably, I don't know, it's got to be since what, like 1977 or something like that, Gary?
I figure close to 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. We worked at Chrysler together, and he was instrumental in helping me start the dealership here in upstate New York in Avon. And I remember the days back then. You and Joe Dietz and I met at someplace in Victor, whatever, to discuss strategy and tactics about how to put this dealership together. So it's been a long, wonderful relationship that we've had. And one of the things about Gary is I didn't realize until he started listening to the show, or we started sending out information about what we do, that he was in the day in the military, and he is a Vietnam vet, and that's why I decided to ring him up and say, "Gee, I didn't know this this stuff about Gary, and why don't you tell us a little bit? First of all, thank you for your service."
Well, thank you.
So, tell me, were you drafted back in the day, or I've had a vet or two saying that they knew they were going to get drafted, so they decided to enlist ahead of time or whatever. So, what was it like for you?
I used to hear that story a lot from the 6 years that I was in the Army, from guys, why'd you join? Well, I figured I was going to get drafted. So anyways, I think I mentioned earlier, my daughters tell me I should write a book about 5 years, 10 months, and 28 days I spent in the Army. I was the youngest of 5 children, family of 7. We never had any money. My father was a truck driver, and he was a nice guy, but he liked to drink, and that took precedent over everything, job, family. And born in Syracuse, New York in 1943, we moved to Madison, New York on US Route 20 in central New York in 1946. And I graduated from Madison Central School at the age of 17 in 1961. I got a job at a canning factory in nearby Waterville, New York. I was the youngest of 5. My brothers, I had 3 brothers that all went in the Army.
Oh, okay.
Out of school. And I was happy doing what I was doing. I came home one day from work, and my mother said, Tuesday, I want you here Tuesday night for dinner. And I said, all right, what's the big deal? I've invited the Army recruiter to come and talk to you.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard a story like that.
Yeah, that was the way it went down. And I I had experienced my brothers arguing with my mother over the years and reducing her to tears. And I went out of my way not to do that, you know. That was my first mistake, because I went along with this whole thing. And in August of 1961, I ended up at Fort Dix, New Jersey for basic training. From there, we made a deal with the recruiter that I would do something, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say technical, but it really wasn't technical. It was more clerical.
Okay.
I ended up being a cryptographer. I did basic training, and then they sent me to Fort Gordon, Georgia, for communication school, and I learned how to use teletype machines and crypto gear, and I used to tell people I was in the white collar army, because generally you did all that stuff in the comfort of an office somewhere in a building.
Well, nobody's shooting at you while you're doing that, right?
Generally no. Yeah, that was true. I had an advantage. When I was in high school, I was a wise guy, and I got kicked out of a class in my senior year in school. I got kicked out of a class, and I was wandering the halls in the middle of the afternoon when Mrs. Lawrence, who was the typewriter teacher, typist teacher, came out and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" She goes, "You're not supposed to be wandering the halls. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, Mr. Hewitt just kicked me out of his science class for being a wise guy." She said, "Well, get in here and sit down." And she made me part of that class and taught me how to type.
So
when I got to signal school, a lot of it has to do with typing, and I had an advantage. I had a leg up, you know.
So you went to Europe for a while, right? I mean, right?
Yeah. From there, I got reassigned to Berlin, West Berlin. That was when the wall was being built.
Oh my!
A lot of tensions there, because I had a top secret crypto clearance. I had to fly in and out of Berlin on military transport. Very restricted on where we could go and what we did. But I worked in the comm center there for 39 months. Now, one of the things that I really enjoyed about that period of time, when John Kennedy gave his Ich bin ein Berliner speech, I was on his staff.
Wow.
I've got a badge somewhere that has my name on it, and it says, that I was on his staff. Now that sounds important, right?
Well, yeah.
While he was speaking, I stood about 15, 20 feet near him, holding the red phone.
Oh my Lord! That's the reason why I love doing these stories. I mean, who knew? Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I've got pictures of me standing there holding this phone, thinking, oh, if this phone rings, I'm going to have a
Yeah, we're taking the call. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was 19 or 20 years old at the time.
Oh my. Oh my! I call these like Forrest Gump moments. Not to deride them, but it's like you had no idea that this person was there when this thing happened. I mean, that is a great story, because things were. I mean, people right now can't really remember or they don't have a comprehension of how dicey things were back then. And, you had the airlift, and they're trying to institute the Marshall Plan. There's East Berlin and West Berlin, which people don't understand now. I mean, that was a hot spot.
Well, it's funny because people in the military who have ever been stationed there loved that duty in the city of Berlin.
Uh-huh.
But the fear factor part was we were surrounded by 400,000 Russian and East German soldiers.
Uh-huh.
The city of Berlin. You're not in West Germany. You're in East Germany.
Yes, it's just an island in the middle of East Germany, right?
And we used to have these meetings, and someone say, if the balloon went up, what would happen to us?
Yeah.
And then some old grizzly guy would go, shit, they'd run over us in a half hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I used that profanity there.
No, that's okay. We could just.
That's old soldier talk.
We could just beep that out. Oh my Lord, that is just so interesting. So how did they send you over to Vietnam? I mean, what was that like?
Well, everybody's got a story, Dom.
Okay.
Because of my clearance in Berlin, I met a young lady who was a East German refugee.
Okay.
She happened to be in West Berlin shopping the day they decided to seal the border.
Ooh.
And she was staying with an aunt overnight while she was shopping. And they decided to close that border, and she opted to stay with her aunt in West Berlin. So we met, we fell in love, we decided to get married. I put in all this paperwork, and pretty soon I'm being summoned to headquarters. People wanted to talk to me.
Okay.
Do you know that this woman's family is in East Berlin? And I said, yes, she is. She is one of 9 children. Okay.
Yeah.
Her name was Bridget Neumann. You pronounced her name Brigitte.
Okay.
It was Brigitte Neumann. And because of her, and the science of it was, the communists could put pressure on me through her family. And they pulled my security clearance.
Ah.
I had a top secret NATO clearance. I worked in the Emergency Operations Center at Army headquarters in Berlin. Do you remember that movie they made a few years ago where I think, was it Gary Powers that they traded?
Yeah, I sure do. With the U2 thing, yeah.
Yeah, and they did it on the Peace Bridge in Berlin. I was on duty that night, and I was at the Emergency Operations Center. I'm the guy behind the screen getting the messages from the field, some handwritten, some on teletype, and I'm typing this stuff on the screen for the generals and the high-ranking officers, and the, people in the next room could read it on the big screen like a movie. I'm the guy that's in there typing all this stuff. What's going on? Used to do that a lot. They used to stop convoys on the Autobahn between the border of West Berlin and East Berlin. And so, anyways, Brigitte, I put in papers to get married, and they called me in and said, this is not normal. She's East German.
Yeah.
She's got a big family. Okay. They could put pressure on her family and try and get to you. You sure you want to get married? And I said, yeah, I love her. And they revoked my security clearance.
Ah.
And so I could no longer work at the comm center in Berlin. And I had already been there over 3.5 years, 39 months. So they shipped me back to the States, and I ended up in a mobile signal outfit in Virginia. And after being there 6 months, they activated the whole unit, and we got shipped to Vietnam.
Jeez.
So I ended up in a place called Long Binh, Vietnam. It was an experience, and I could not work my MOS because they still wouldn't give me a security clearance.
Yeah.
So I was a sergeant. I was an E5. They put me in charge of all kinds of crazy details. I was the guy that took a squadron out in the field, fill sandbags, and then I had them stack the sandbags around our commo equipment and around buildings and around tents, squad tents and stuff, And I just lost my train of thought. That's a danger of working with somebody my age.
Well, we all get there, but so what was it? So I'll just ask you like a generic question. What surprised you the most? What were you most afraid of in Vietnam? What was it like in Vietnam? Because I know when all you vets came back, I mean you weren't greeted with parades and accolades. So let's talk a little bit about Vietnam.
Well, my experience was, and again, this was 1966. There were two Vietnams. There was I was stationed in Long Binh, Vietnam, which is a half-hour's drive from Saigon. Mm-hmm. And the next biggest town is Bien Hoa, and there was a big military air base there. Okay. So we were in the southern part of Vietnam, and we had to deal with the Viet Cong sappers. They weren't wearing uniforms. They weren't coming across the border from North Vietnam through the jungle. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we had sappers who, a good friend of mine was killed sleeping. The Army occupied a villa, big building in the suburb of Saigon, and a sapper parked a bicycle laden with explosives on the wall cinder block wall outside of this villa. Mm-hmm. and triggered it overnight, and my buddy Jerry Gaylor was killed by that explosion. Now, we weren't out in the jungle, humping the boonies, chasing after guys, but we had the problem of, I again didn't have a security clearance, couldn't work my MOS. Sergeant Relf, go get a deuce and a half and take these guys into Tan Son Nhut to the air base for training or something. And you could be driving through the suburbs there, and somebody would toss a hand grenade into the back of that deuce and a half because they knew there were people back there, soldiers. So we had to deal with that sort of thing. Were we constantly under attack or threat? No, we had to worry about mortar attacks and sniper attacks and that all good sort of stuff. And of course, I used to tell people, I knew guys that lived in hotels in Saigon. Mm-hmm. That was where they were billeted. Mm-hmm. I wasn't that fortunate. I lived in a tent for the better part of a year.
Jeez.
And I have Agent Orange because when we got there, they had defoliated an area in the jungle. I was with the 69th Signal Battalion, and Colonel Myers was our commanding officer, and we went by ship to Vung Tau, Vietnam. Then we flew from Vung Tau to Bien Hoa, and then they trucked us from Bien Hoa to Long Binh to this open field out in the jungle that obviously had been defoliated, and we pitched our little pup tents. And that was the day the monsoon season started.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite a shock. Anyways, they built showers for us. They got lumber and they built a frame and they put these wingtip tanks from airplanes where they'd put a little nozzle on the tank part, and you could open that up and water would come trickle down on you. And that was how we showered for a long time. And you had to do it all in 3 minutes,
Oh, geez.
Because couldn't use all that water. There were thousands of us guys there.
Well, the Agent Orange thing, my God, that's just horrible stuff.
Well, I've had I don't know how many, 50 surgeries.
Oh,
I've got scars all over my back. But my thing about the Agent Orange is, I kept thinking, where did I get it? I did some research. Those water tanks, had been wingtip tanks on planes that used to spray the Agent Orange. So I tried when I worked at Chrysler, as you know, I started as the computer guy, and
me too.
and I wanted to. I thought I should sign up with the VA, and the VA wouldn't take us back in those days. They had all kinds of excuses why I didn't qualify for VA medical insurance, and they sent us all packing. Now today, they write me all the time. I'm eligible. I'm fully credited. Come on down. And that's all right. I've got insurance paying through the nose for it. But
so
anyways,
you went from, and now when you came back, and every Vietnam vet, most were drafted. Okay, it wasn't their choice to go into the military, and they go and they do their job, and then they come back, and the community is vilifying them for having gone to Vietnam. You had no choice. I mean, it was either that or you had to leave the country. And I think that we're coming around society wise with this now, having more of an open mind that you guys contributed a lot to the country and need to be thanked and honored for what you did. I mean, we have this honor flight thing here in Rochester that is really quite extraordinary, and you guys deserve a lot of credit.
Well, thank you. I have really mixed emotions about Vietnam.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting statement to say. Go ahead.
Well, I see people acknowledging Vietnam veterans, and I'm one of them. I've got a hat that says Vietnam veteran, and I wear it. I wear it to connect with other veterans. Okay, I'm not wearing it because I'm showing off.
Right.
I'm in my 80s, and I know there's other veterans out there, and I meet a buddy every Monday morning at Bob Evans for coffee, and other guys will come in and they'll see my hat and come over and say, "Hey, you were in Vietnam? I was too." And we have a little, and I'm just acknowledging them. Geez, Dom, I keep going off on these little rants, and then I forget what I was going to tell you.
You get to be our age, and everybody accepts that. That's fine. But
when I came back in November of '66. They arranged for us to travel at nighttime. You know, they timed things so that if you had to fly out of wherever, I don't even remember where I was, San Francisco maybe, you know, we got to the airport 10 o'clock at night and, flew out in the middle of the night. So we weren't bothered much by demonstrators back in those days. It obviously got a lot worse as that went on. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you now. It it irritates me when I see Vietnam veterans and they talk about defending our freedom. What part of our freedom was in danger when during Vietnam? North Vietnam was no more of a threat to the United States than Canada is today. So
I get it. The thing about it, though, from my standpoint, is that the validity of the war, whether it be whether it be Iraq or whatever, I mean, that to me is something that we can debate. What we really don't have any reason to debate is the service and the loyalty that you guys and gals did back when you were called on to do it and you did it. Okay, so that the honor is in that. Now the generals or the president or whatever making these decisions to go into this country or that country or whatever, that is beyond that is beyond what we're talking about. We're talking about guys like you who served the country well, and no matter what the ultimate a goal or objective of the deal was, you were there and you served honorably, and so consequently you should be honored. That's the way I feel about it.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was waiting for you to say something.
Oh, I was wondering if you heard that noise. It sounded like my old system shut down here, but no.
No. We're fine. You know what? This connection is not bad for telephone. It's not bad at all. But go ahead.
Well, I did what you asked me to do. So
yes,
I appreciate the comments, and I believe you're sincere, and I believe the majority of people are.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are misguided on what our role was there. Well,
what I mean, it boils down to this: what choice did you have? Other than changing your citizenship and going to Canada, so you have no choice. This is you joined, and this is the path that you took. This is the life that you chose for yourself, or you were drafted, and you had no choice because you were drafted. So either way, you honorably served your country, and that's why I do this. I do this because I think there's a lot of stories out there like your story that is absolutely fascinating. I wanted to actually, Gary, I got to tell you something. I wanted to interview you for maybe like 10 minutes or so. We're on a half an hour so far, and this is great stuff. I mean, there's a whole show for me out of this conversation with you, a guy that I've known for 50 years, and I didn't know this stuff about you. And it's good. I mean, this is really fascinating stuff.
It was I use the word stigma that, I think I mentioned to you earlier, my ex-wife didn't know that I had served in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Okay. We had worked together at GE in Utica, and,
yeah.
Her brother, one of her brothers served in Vietnam. Yep. And this is a whole, and I don't know if you want to go here, but my ex-wife's mother was murdered by a serial killer in Utica, New York.
Whoa.
And there's a book called The Potato Hill Killer. they surmised that this guy who did this had done it a number of times, and he buried his victims on Potato Hill, which is north of Utica. And I remember when we got the word that she had been killed, and they put the dragnet out to get this guy even more intense. But anyways, for her funeral, I was the one that had to contact her brother Bobby, who was he was in the Navy on a ship in the Mediterranean.
Uh-huh.
And I had to talk to him through CB radio operators.
Mm-hmm.
It was so awkward. Bobby, it's your brother-in-law, Gary, over.
Oh my God.
Why are you calling over? Bobby, I got bad news over. Your mother's been killed, and
oh, jeez.
And trying to do that whole conversation through CB radio was rather awkward. And then her other brother was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he got a trip home. He got out of there for that, with that.
Oh my God, Gary! For all the years I've known you, this is just a revelation for me. And then you got to work for Chrysler, which was a ball of fun back in the days. Loan guarantees, and we're going out of business for the first time rather than the second and third time, and all this other stuff, and sales bank. And someday we'll have to explain to people sales bank with Chrysler. Yeah,
most people wouldn't believe that whole.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll explain. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. What?
Did I ever tell you how I got hired?
No. How'd you get hired?
I had worked in Utica. My German wife wanted to go back to Germany. We divorced. I moved to Syracuse. I was going to get a new job and start over again. And I was looking at the newspaper, and there was an ad in the paper, urgent computer operator, blah, 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 apply, So that's how I ended up working for Chrysler. Now, the reason they urgently needed a computer operator was the guy that I was replacing got arrested for selling drugs.
That's Chrysler.
Because the computer room had a separate phone line.
Yeah.
It didn't go through the switchboard.
Yeah.
This guy when he was running jobs on the computer, he was on the phone selling drugs to people, Well, he got arrested and I got the job.
Yeah. Well, and what happened when they had the layoffs back when, with the loan guarantees and stuff, they started laying people off. But I knew how to run the computer. And the computer in those days, ladies and gentlemen, was the size of this large room with these spinning wheels and stuff and the IBM cards and all this other stuff. So, Gary and I had that in common, but that saved me from getting laid off from Chrysler when they did all the layoffs. And I went back in the field as a field rep and everything. But yeah, Gary, I have to tell you, this has been a fascinating conversation, and thank you again for your service and being a friend and like I said, I wanted to have maybe 10 minutes or so, but we have a whole deal here because the whole thing is that that your time and having the top security clearance and the thing with Kennedy and how it was in Berlin and then getting married and thing and this is great stuff. This is great radio, and this will be.
And we haven't even touched me chauffeuring Lee Iacocca around Rochester when he came to thank the companies that bought his fleet cars.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to extend this for another 2 or 3 minutes. Tell me about. I only met Iacocca, like twice to shake his hand or whatever. What was he like? I mean, one thing about Iacocca, he walked around with an entourage of guys, and the other thing is he's much taller than you would think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so your job was to chauffeur him around?
After they they launched the K car, and what are the Xerox, and what's the other company up there?
Kodak.
Kodak.
Yeah.
Kodak and Xerox were big fleet customers.
Okay.
Launched the new K car, and remember Frank Miller?
Yes.
Frank Miller was the fleet guy. He got national notoriety because he went into he and Tad Alwyn went into Rochester and got buku orders for fleet cars from Chrysler, and Iacocca announced that he wanted to come and address those two companies and thank them for their business and tell them what it meant and what was going on in America. And so I was the DM, Mike Ring, Frank Miller, Tad Alwyn. We all met the airplane at the Rochester airport and chauffeured Iacocca to the hotel for the meeting.
So, ladies and gentlemen, DM is a district manager, so he's calling on dealers at the time. So it's not like you're executive vice president or something. So you're at not the entry level, but you are on the deal where you're calling on dealers every day.
Yeah. I had moved on from the computer room.
To jamming cars down dealers' throats when they didn't want them, which is actually my job title back then.
And you know what? having seen Sales Bank every day for months on end, from the outside in, I was the computer guy. I didn't have to get on the phone and badger somebody to take a car or truck,
So I have to explain this to my audience too. Now, Chrysler had this really, really strange way of doing business. So if they didn't have an order for enough cars, they would build them themselves and store them at the Michigan State Fairgrounds. Now, what this did is this created this system where the dealer wouldn't order all the cars he wanted from you or he could use because he knew you were going to call him later on to sell these sales bank cars. And it was just this self-fulfilling prophecy, and the cars would be sitting there and they'd be rotting. I mean, how many cars do we have delivered and there were mice under the seats, dead mice under the seats, and they didn't, and the other thing was something called a build out change. What they would do is they would take the materials from whatever car it is, and make a car out of it. So you would have a car with a red vinyl roof, and the exterior would be blue, and the interior would be green, or something with an
Paisley.
All this stuff, and they would make, and then you had to sell these cars. Now you're sitting in a room and you're calling dealers all day long asking to buy these cars that they didn't want to begin with. And it was just miserable. They would get us drunk in the morning. They would come in with we would have mimosas and screwdrivers and stuff. But you couldn't. I mean, these are the days before the loan guarantees, the days before Iacocca too. Iacocca was the president of the company, and Ronald Reagan, president of the United States. And when that whole thing happened, where they came out with the K car and the K car worked, it was really a great deal. But boy, I got to tell you, I have to tell you a story though, because my daughter Francesca is so ingrained in the Chrysler culture. Okay, so one day I don't know if it's I don't know what we're eating. We're eating, like a turkey dinner or something like that. And we didn't finish off all the mashed potatoes. And I swear to God, this is true. She goes, "Dad, we have sales bank on the mashed potatoes." A sales bank on the mashed potatoes. Well, there we go. I got to tell you, we got a whole show here, buddy. And is there anything, did Iacocca do anything that you'd be surprised about, or was just I'm sure that that long ago he was very moderated and whatever, right?
Right.
I mean, he didn't. No controversy when he came into town. That's really cool, though. That is really, really cool. Did you have any conversations with him? Did he ask anything about your job or whatever?
Thanks you for reminding me. We were briefed when we got to the airport. We were briefed by his advance team. Don't engage Mr. Iacocca in conversation. He's got to give a speech. His mind is elsewhere. Don't small talk him. If you're driving him, you drive him. You keep your mouth shut. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm driving the vehicle behind Tad Elwin, the fleet manager, was driving Iacocca, and we leave the airport. We're in downtown Rochester, and they're turning a corner. And when they turned the corner, I could see Iacocca in the passenger seat there, and his very animated conversation.
Okay.
So when we got to the hotel, I went to Tad and I said, "What was going on? I saw Iacocca and he was waving his hands and talking in a way to you. I said, "What were you talking about?" He said, he was telling me to hurry up. He needed to go to the bathroom.
Oh my God! Well, Gary, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for this conversation. It is absolutely delightful. I'm kind of tearing up from laughing. This is the simple absurdity of it. I mean, someday we should just do a show on the absurdity of Chrysler in the 70s. Is just
oh my God, they should make a movie out of it.
Well, one of the things in my book, I mean, not to hawk my book, but my book, I talk about being yelled at for unwrapping cheese balls. Those cheese balls, those things with the nuts on the outside of them. I almost got fired because I unwrapped cheese balls, and it's right. It's right there in the book. Actually, it's a famous story at Chrysler how I almost got fired for unwrapping cheese balls, and not to eat them myself. But the story is in there. So again, thanks again, and with that, we are going to go to our next section. And one of my sections is car buying tips of the week, and I think we're going to have one right now. Okay, and with that, we have a. So I do these car buying tips of the week. So. What did I do? What did I do today? I forget, but I always have these car buying tips of the week. Have you thought this one through and whatever? So, and the book is doing well. What I'm doing is I'm going from place to place and giving presentations on the book. And people love it. I mean, the book doesn't cost me that much money. I hand them out to the Rotaries and stuff like that. And then people ask me questions because when I did the dealership, Gary, obviously I was a no-nonsense car dealer, and I did business in a certain way. And the guys that bought the dealership are not doing business that way. And so it's my little contribution to people. If I can save somebody from getting snookered, it's all good stuff. Plus, what are you going to do? You retire and you got to do something.
I tell people stories about my experience. And, I moved on to become a district sales manager, and I'd be at a dirty, dingy little dealership trying to upgrade them to the current century. And I'd say, "Have you ever been in the restroom here to the dealer?" And the dealer goes, "Oh, I don't use that. I go home when I need to go to the bathroom."
Yeah.
I go, "Where the hell are your customers supposed to go?" Jesus. Yeah. That was the sort of mentality that we had out there.
So if you give me your address, I'll send you a book. What's your address?
287 Bellgrove, Bellegrove, one word, Drive, Bellgrove Drive, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29579.
29579?
Yeah.
Okay. Myrtle Beach, the only place you can putt a golf ball up an elephant's ass at 3:00 in the morning.
That's true.
Yeah. I was in Charlotte from it was 86 to 94. I was making really good money. Well, happy because I started with Chrysler in 1977. So then they put me in the fleet department for a while to be a leasing and rental manager, and those guys, those are all the old guys. It was like it was like the long timers, and so when I got to be like average in their pay scale, it was really high. So I got the benefit of that, which was really great. But if I was a more competent employee, I wouldn't be as successful as I am.
I got to tell you that when I got hired, they were so excited about getting a new computer operator and forgetting about the guy who was selling drugs through the phone system there. They gave me a car to drive that day.
Ooh, really?
You didn't get a car.
No, you didn't get a field car for that.
I forget who the guys were, but they said, what are you driving? And I had a 64 Chevy convertible or something, and they said, lock that up and leave it here. We're going to give you. And they gave me a 1972 Charger, the dark brown with the white vinyl roof, 2-door, big engine. And I immediately went to visit my family, my mother, my brothers and stuff. And they called it the James Bond Charger. They talked about it for years. How when the day I got hired, I wasn't even official yet. Yeah, they gave me a car to drive.
Well, you were royalty. My computer story is that I found a way of having Alice, who is our key punch operator, key punch the IBM cards that would print whatever I wanted on that paper that was green and light green, and people would believe anything that got printed on that piece of paper. You could give them any report you wanted as long as it's on that paper. Well, the computer said it and must be true. That was a lot of fun. But the old Chrysler days, we should tip a beer to the old Chrysler days someday. And that thing with the loan guarantees, well, who knows if we're going to be in business next week. And then that happened then, and then in 86, and then 94, and then it's like when we had problems in 2008, I had a meeting with all of our people, and I said, don't worry about that. Don't worry about this. We skirt death every 10 years at Chrysler.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Gary, it's been great. Thank you. I got a whole show out of this. This is just a lot of fun. Thank you ever so much. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime, Dom.
Okay.
Anytime.
Yeah, and you wondered if we were going to talk about something political. Nothing political.
I was concerned.
No. Well, here's the thing. I was a guest host a lot of times on Jim Salmon has a home repair clinic on Saturday mornings at WHAM. And it got along, fairly well, and people like my voice and whatever. And I said, well, if people turn into a show on Saturday mornings to talk about the servo valve on their furnace, how about a show to talk about people? And then I'm making these relationships with people that guys have Emmys and they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all this other stuff. And there's some people that are very, very interesting, and there's some people that quite frankly aren't, they don't have a great story, but they have maybe an unusual life or something like that. And so it's just a lot of fun. Keeps me busy, keeps me doing something. And this whole thing with doing something with veteran stories, I think people like this. I think they don't understand a lot of these things. And I think some of these stories, like you were talking about, like Kennedy, was like this David Bast I have. I mean, here's pictures of him with Reagan, and he's saying how he and this other Marine were assigned to the Reagan White House, just two guys out of 250 that applied, and he's telling me these stories about being with Ronald Reagan. He says Ronald Reagan was like a grandfather to me. I mean, who knew? I don't know. Those are great stories. This Kennedy thing, that's a lot of story. And then the Vietnam thing is great. This is a great story. So I'll wrap this up. It's not going to be on this weekend because I think I'll probably put it on next weekend. And then and we make a YouTube out of it, and you can send it to whoever you want.
Cool.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Dom, good talking to you.
You too, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find our previous shows at nononsenseroundtable.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.